There was a conversation I had about Bernie Sanders and his fundraising. It was on the Morning Joe show. Joe Scarborough had a guest on the show where they discussed Bernie Sanders' fundraising totals. They discussed Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. I'm going to show you the clip. Then we'll have a conversation.
With that, Jason, we've talked about the T-800 and his staying power in this race. I guess we also, obviously, this is something that Joe Biden needs to be concerned about. But there has, from the moment Elizabeth Warren has said she was going to get into this race, there has been a discussion in the media, in political circles, among fundraisers about this progressive battle between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Certainly this morning, if you look at the polls, if you look at the numbers, Bernie out fundraised Elizabeth 2-1. Certainly right now, you have to give a pretty strong nod to Bernie Sanders in that fight, right?
You do. And here's the thing. To help you out a bit, Joe, John Conyers was turned into a Terminator in the last movie, so you're still right. It actually works out fine.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But yeah, so here's the thing. The idea there was going to be a progressive battle between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. It was never something that had much resonance with me because that presumes that Bernie Sanders supporters are supporting him primarily for policy purposes, and that's not really what's going on. A lot of his core base support like him because they see him as sort of a political and democratic savior type character. So he was always going to end up winning out any sort of policy argument because in the end of the day, people they like Bernie, and they're Bernie or bust kind of people. But I do think it's critical to remember this. We really are down to 4 people who have any chance. You've got Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Mayor Pete, and Elizabeth Warren. The question is going to be not about who's got enough money, because they all have enough money to go way past Super Tuesday. The question is going to be which of these candidates can bring together the kind of coalition that they need to work long term. And no matter what anybody says, scoreboard, Joe Biden is still winning this thing. He's still leading Bernie Sanders by 10% of the vote. And so clearly he is winning amongst black people. He is winning amongst the old. He's winning amongst young people. So clearly it's not about a progressive policy battle. Democrats want to win, and they still seem to think Joe Biden is the guy to do it.
Well, I'm curious what you think, Jason, about you said only four people can have a shot at winning this thing. Right. I'll let you deal with Andrew Yang's online supporters today and not me. But let's talk about Michael Bloomberg. Charlie Pierce this weekend was talking about the possibility.
Part of the reason why we're talking right now is that I had such a spirited conversation with Dr. Jason Johnson on Twitter. Now, this is not a new thing. Dr. Jason and I have disagreed numerous times before because Dr. Jason Johnson likes to do what he just did here, which is go on MSNBC and make very sweeping statements and arguments that aren't supported by any facts or data. Just feelings that he has in his big toe, or maybe the way his forehead feels when the wind hits it, a grumbling in his tummy. These are the ways that he comes up with his well-thought-out political analysis. Take, for instance, he says that Bernie Sanders supporters don't support Bernie Sanders due to policy. We are talking about someone in the Senate who is prolific when it comes to policies. We're talking about a senator who is known as the Amendment King. We're talking about the same candidate who's had so much focus on his policies that almost entire Democratic primary debates have been held around his policy points. We're talking about a candidate who championed for $15 an hour and then got that done, who has extended his campaign from 2015 into 2020, running on most of the core principles already demonstrated 4 or 5 years ago. We're talking about a candidate who is synonymous with Medicare for All, a candidate who supports the Green New Deal, a candidate who is chastised and berated for free local college tuition, who now we see that being adopted in state after state. And Dr. Jason Johnson gets to go on MSNBC with Joe Scarborough and say, well, it was never about Bernie's policies. His people don't pay attention to policy. His people just see him as a savior of the Democratic Party. This is the level of discourse and conversation This is what you get from cable corporate media. Now, it'd be bad enough that you can make such a horrible call like that. But then to double down on it on social media, I'm beginning to think that Dr. Jason Johnson is simply just a troll. Yeah, guys, he's just a troll. He was trolling the Yang Gang 2 weeks ago. He trolls Bernie Sanders supporters. In fact, I don't think that if it wasn't for Dr. Jason trolling Bernie supporters, making the most erroneous claims, that he would even be a full-time or a repeat attendee on MSNBC. I think we need to think about, put a pin in that, and think about if we want to continue to feed the troll. Because at this point, that's exactly what he is. He goes on to say, there's only 4 people that have a chance to win, and that would be someone who can form a coalition. Well, Bernie Sanders is forming a coalition. This segment was about the record-setting fundraising numbers that you notice Dr. Jason and Joe Scarborough didn't even mention in the segment. Did you hear Dr. Jason point out the fact that Bernie Sanders had doubled Elizabeth Warren's fundraising numbers for the fourth quarter? No, he didn't. I think that's it's sort of like a good barometer, a good way to check what's going on, right? Then he went on to make another mistake. And I'm going to call it a mistake, though it's hard to imagine a professor like Dr. Jason Johnson, who's a teacher at Morgan, it would not have the ability to get numbers right or know who supports who. Well, anyway, he said that Bernie Sanders was losing to Joe Biden with young people. We all know that's wrong and false, totally false. Bernie Sanders leads with young people. He's been leading with young people for the last 2 election cycles. Then he goes on to tout how Biden does better with black people. But he leaves out that Bernie Sanders does better with people of color, which would include Latinos. Because once you include Latinos, everything changes. Throw in some Asians, some my Native American brothers, indigenous folks, then we got ourselves a stalemate. Yeah, these are all facts that Dr. Jason doesn't want to submit. See, I'm telling you, I don't think Dr. Jason is an honest actor. Not to mention, no one mentions, either Joe or Jason mentioned, that Bernie Sanders posed very highly with independents. Now, I'm not saying all of that can be fitted into the clip, but some of it could have. It's almost as if Dr. Jason Johnson is brought on to MSNBC for the sole purpose of dunking on Bernie Sanders, not exactly or actually delivering any type of political analysis. Now, I want to give you guys a full disclaimer. I talked to Dr. Jason Johnson in Politico when I went to Tennessee. He was there holding court, arms flapping about to 3 or 4 women, talking about how bad Bernie Sanders supporters were. I just happened to walk up, and that's what he was doing. He was doing the same thing live that he does on MSNBC. Bash Bernie supporters and say how horrible they are. There is nothing to be gleaned from a conversation with this guy. There is no conversation that can be had with a person who says the candidate who has set the benchmark for the Democratic Party, this candidate, that his supporters don't support him because of those benchmarks, don't support him for policies that resonate, not just in this country. Guys, Bernie doesn't just resonate in the United States. You know how I know? Because I have a phone-in line show on Fridays where people call me from Australia, from Sweden, from Mexico, from Puerto Rico. I've had calls from people in Japan who love Bernie Sanders. Bernie is not just an American treasure, international, worldwide treasure. And we got this hack on MSNBC who says that we who support him do so more so because he's a savior. There's a lot of things you could call Bernie Sanders a savior, would not be one of them. In fact, I don't know Bernie Sanders personally. I've never met the man. But it wasn't the fact that he was a 70-plus Jewish man from New York that attracted me to him. It was actually his policies that inspired me. Maybe the focus need not be on the bad actors who will smear us no matter what. That is their job. That is his job. His job is to work for a company he doesn't own, get paid a paycheck, go on MSNBC to deepen his relationship with the establishment, and spread lie after lie. But I want you to know, it's not a personal vendetta, at least not for my part. I would call out Zelina Maxwell, Mimi Rocha, Joy-Ann Reid, Neera Tanden, any bad actor who I felt misrepresented this important cause that I think is much needed in this country and in this world. It's not about Dr. Jason Johnson. In fact, he's a mere footnote of hacks who smear us. He's just one name on a long list of people who are in the way, who are obstacles to our democracy, of us taking our government back. And he doesn't realize it. Maybe he does realize it and doesn't care, or maybe the paycheck's just so great. One last thing I'd like to point you all to is it's always remarkable how much they love to say that Bernie Sanders supporters are so disagreeable online. The Bernie bro myth. Oh, it's just so many guys. These white guys. Well, they discount black men as if we don't exist. They discount black women, and they discount women in general because Bernie Sanders does better with women than Joe Biden. But you won't hear Dr. Jason point out that fact. No, instead, he'll hop on those people who for some reason feel that Joe Biden might be able to actually save somebody, even though he ain't been doing no saving as vice president. Just in case there's some people out there who say, well, maybe Bernie does have, I've heard people throw around the term code of personality. I think that we have ourselves in a chicken, what came first, a chicken or the egg situation. See, I tend to believe that people were attracted to Bernie's policies, and then their personality grew on them. I mean, that's how I see it. But if you would want to argue that Bernie Sanders supporters are not here for policy but here for personality, or because he's a savior of some kind, please tell me what you think Biden supporters are doing. You can't even name 3 policies that Biden supports. Go ahead, name 3 policies that Biden supports. See, we can have a substantive conversation, but we can't have a substantive conversation with bad actors who lack substance. You are allergic to truth. You are paid to be allergic to truth. And you fool no one, sir. No one.